Good day, ladies and gentlemen personalities. My name is Mqondisi Macaba from Thembela Maths Club, a club that helps learners to understand mathematics. Today, we are going to be dealing with multiplications of terms that involves variables, terms like this. So we are going to look at how do we go about multiplying those kind of terms. All right, the terms that involves what? That involve variables. Okay, so let us go ahead and see how we can go about with these kinds of things. All right, now let's say, for argument's sake, you've got something like this. All right, something like this. Let's say we've got 3x squared plus 2x plus 1. All right, so this is a term, this is another term, this is a term, this is another term, and then this is another term. So in total here, we've got 3 terms. Okay, now these terms, they involve somehow the variable, which is x in this particular case, right? So when you've got a term like this, now how do you see that this is a term and this is a term and this is a term? You see that because, for example, this and this are separated by plus, and then this and this are also separated by plus. So you see terms by being separated by either plus or what, or minus, then that is a term. Now these terms involve x, and then this one involves x, and then this one, the one that doesn't involve x, there is a special name that we have for it. We call it a constant term. Okay, so whenever they are talking about a constant term, they are talking about a term that does not involve what? That does not involve a variable. All right, now since this is a constant term, now how do we then categorize this one and this one? All right, so let's just take this one and say 3x squared. All right, so this term has 3 parts. There is this one, and what we call this part, we call this part coefficient. Coefficient. All right, and then what about this one? We call this one variable. Okay, or if you don't want to call it variable, you can call it a base. All right, what about this one? This one is called a power. If you don't want to call it a power, you can call it what? Or exponent. All right, so ladies and gentlemen personalities, it is very important to know this part. This is a coefficient, a number before a variable or before the base, and then you've got a variable itself, or some people call it a base, and then on top you always have a power. If you don't want to call it a power, you can call it an exponent. All right, so in a term that involves x, you can always identify a coefficient, you can identify a variable, you can also identify a power, right? Okay, now let's simply look at this one. Okay, now before we look at this one, let's take another one. Let's say, for example, it's 5x to the power 3. Okay, so what is a coefficient there? What did we say about a coefficient? We say a coefficient is a number before a variable. So, we already have a variable, so we can actually say a variable here is x. And then also, what is a coefficient? The coefficient is a number before the variable. Now what number is that? It's 5. It's 5. And then what about the power? Where is a power? Here. a power is on top. So in this particular case, the power is 3. I do not know what is wrong with my pen. Let me take another one. The power is 3 in this particular case. Okay, now let's, with the same speed, let's take this one. We've got 2x. We also want a coefficient, we want a variable, we want a power. Okay, let's start with a variable. What is a variable here? You can all see the variable is x. So the variable is x in this particular case. What is a coefficient? A coefficient is a number that is before x. What is that number? Is 2. It's 2 in this particular case. Now, what is a power? Aha, we are having a problem now here. There is nothing here. We don't see anything. Does that mean there is no power? No, it does not mean that there is no power. There is a power. It's just that that power is an invisible one. Invisible one. Alright, so whenever you don't see any power, you must know that there is always a power which is 1. That is what? That is invisible here. Alright, that it's very, very important to remember that one. Okay, so it's like when you have x. Let's say you've got x. X, say x to the power, say 6. Okay, and then we are looking for a coefficient, and then we are looking for a variable, and we are looking for a power. Okay, the power here, you can see it's 6. It's very clear, it's on top, so it's 6. What about a variable? A variable is x. But now, what about a coefficient? There is no coefficient here. So also, if there is no coefficient, you must know that there is always a coefficient of 1 that is an invisible one. So it's an invisible one, or you can just write 1. It does not matter. So what am I saying here, Mr. Makaba? What are you saying to us? I'm saying something simple, that if you have a term that involves x, you can be able to identify, number 1, a coefficient. Number 2, you can be able to identify what? A variable. You can also be able to identify a power. And then on the other side, you will then have a term that is called a constant, like this term. Okay, so these are the terms. All right, the reason why I'm showing you this is because I want you to be aware of the terminology that is involved in these kinds of things, right? Why do we need to know? So that if I say this is what will happen to a coefficient, then you know what is it that I'm talking about. If I say to you, don't go to the lunch and take my cell phone, if you do not know what a cell phone is, you won't even know what to take, because you do not know. But if you know, then you will know what to do. All right, so those are the kind of things that we would like to establish and be able to put them in perspective. All right, there we go. Now we have done the terminology. Let us then go to, I do not know which one is more interesting. To me, this was the most interesting part. Maybe to you, this is the next part is the most interesting one. I do not know. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, personalities, now when we speak about algebraic expressions, we are talking about these kinds of expressions that involves x, and sometimes it does not only involve x, sometimes it involves other variables. Sometimes can be a, for example, you can have something like this, like you can have 2a squared plus a. This is an algebraic expression, and then the variable in this particular case is a. All right, so it's one of those kind of things. All right, now ladies and gentlemen, personalities, there are many kinds of algebraic expressions, but I'm going to deal with a couple of them that I think they are very, very important. All right, the first one that I'm going to deal with is called a monomial. Monomial. Okay, so what is a monomial? A monomial is an algebraic expression with what? Let me just write algebraic expression so that you can see what is happening here. Algebraic expressions. Aha. Okay, so you've got a monomial. Monomial. What is a monomial? A monomial, ladies and gentlemen, personalities. Mono means one. So a monomial is an expression that involves only one term. Okay, and then you've got a binomial. Now what is a binomial? It involves two terms. Okay, it's an expression that involves only two terms. And then you will have a trinomial. Tri means three, like triangle with three sides. Trinomial. And then now when we are talking about trinomials, we are talking about three terms. Okay, and then lastly we're going to speak about polynomial. Now poly means many, and then when you have a polynomial, we've got an expression that involves how many terms? That involves 4 or more terms. All right, now can we have examples of these kinds of things? So for example, when you're speaking about the monomial, you can be speaking about something like x squared. It's just one term, it's a monomial. Okay, just put it here, it's x squared. Let's remove it here. And then when you are talking about a binomial, you are talking about something like x plus 1. You've got x plus 1. Okay, it's one term and then two terms. That is a binomial. Now when you're speaking about a trinomial, you are speaking about something like this. Say you've got x squared plus 2x plus 1. It's 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's three terms. Now that is a trinomial. Okay, now let's look at the polynomial. A polynomial would be something like this: x to the power 3 plus 2x squared plus 4x minus 8. Okay, now this is what? This is a polynomial. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. It contains 4. Remember, by definition, we said a polynomial must contain what? Must contain 4 or more terms. Okay. Yes. So basically, if somebody can speak to you about binomial, now you know exactly what they are talking about. If they talk about a trinomial, you know exactly what they are talking about. If they talk about a monomial or a polynomial, now you know exactly what is it that they are talking about. You will not be confused. Right? Now let's enter the personalities. Now, how do you go about multiplying these algebraic expressions? Okay, so how do you go about? Now we're going to take a couple of examples and then we'll see where we take it from there. Okay, let's take the first one. Let's say you are multiplying a monomial with another monomial. So a monomial and a monomial. How do you go about multiplying these things? Okay, you're going to use the first law of exponent. Okay, now what is the first law of exponent? It's something like this. You've got x to the power a times x to the power b, which is equal to x to the power a plus b. You remember there is a law that says that if you've got a term, two of them, and then you are multiplying them, and then the bases or the variables are the same, then you can then take one of the variables and so represent both of them, and then you must just add what? You must just add the powers, and then you get something like this. Okay, so in real life, how does this apply? Say, for example, you've got x to the power 3 multiplied by x to the power 4. This will be x to the power 3 plus 4, which is nothing other than x to the power 7. So this will then be equal to x to the power 7. So this is how you go about multiplying this thing. So this is one of the tools that you are going to use when you're multiplying any monomial and nominal. So keep it somewhere at the back of your mind and know that at some stage you may definitely need to use it. All right, now what are other tools? You've got other tools, like for example, if you have a times x, then you know that that gives you what? It gives you ax. All right, guys, you do remember also that you've got a times b, this is the same as what? This is the same as ab. Okay, now get used to that kind of stuff because you're going to be using it a lot here. All right, and then for example, you've got 2 times x, and then you know that that will be nothing other than what? Other than 2x. All right, another thing, it's say you got minus 3 times x squared, then you know that that will be what? Minus 3x squared. You just remove the multiplication sign limit and then you combine it like that. Okay, so if you see AB, you must know at the back of your mind that that came as a result of multiplying A and what? And B. So those are the kind of things. Okay, another thing, another component that you should also look at, for example, say you have 2x squared times, now these guys means multiply as well. So if I put this and then I put this, it's one and the same thing. 1 times and then 3x to the power 5. Now here, what you will do is you will use this rule. So you will have like x and then 2 plus 5 is going to be what? It's going to be 7 to the power 7. But now you also have coefficients. You must also multiply this coefficient with each other. So 2 times 3, and then that is 6. So you're gonna put this 6 here. So that is how you go about multiplying what? A monomial with what? With another monomial. All right, now let's say then on the other instances, or in another case, now you want to multiply a binomial. Okay, before you can even get to there, let's say you want to multiply now. Okay, we did a monomial with a monomial. Let's say now we want to multiply a monomial with a binomial. Okay, now we've got a monomial and a binomial. How do we go about multiplying those two? It's very simple. So if you've got a and then you've got multiplied by x plus y, guys, bracket means multiplication. All right, so this is a term, these are two terms inside, and then it means that you multiply these two terms as a collective and you multiply it with this a that is outside. So how do you then do that? So you will take this a and you multiply it with this number here, and then you will end up with ax, and then you take this a again and then you multiply it with this term here, and then you'll get plus ay. All right, so if you've got something like this, you must know that it was taken from here. And then if you've got something like this, you can actually multiply it out and then you end up like this. You must know how to go forward, and you must also know how to get forward. Now let's take as an example of a monomial being multiplied by a binomial. Let's say, for example, you've got what? You've got x, and then you've got multiplied by x plus 2. Okay, again, take this one, you multiply it with this, and then you get x squared. All right, remember there's power 1 here, power 1 here, so 1 plus 1 is 2, so that's why you get x squared. Okay, and then you take this one and you multiply by this one, and then you get what? Plus 2x. So that is a monomial with a binomial. All right, and then let's also take a monomial again with multiply by what? Multiply by a trinomial this time around. Trinomial. Now, how do we go about looking at those kind of things? Okay, so in this particular case, we'll have something like this. Say you've got a, and then multiply by what? X plus y plus z or z. Okay, in the same spirit, the way in which we're doing things, you will do the same thing. It's just that now you will then extend to a third term. So this times this is going to give you what? Ax. And then this again times this one is going to give you what? Ay. And then this times this one is going to give you what? Az. All right, let's just make an example. Let's say you've got 2, and then you've got 2x squared, right, plus 3x minus 4. You will take this and multiply it with this, and this, that will give you what? 4x squared. And then this multiply by this. Some people call it a wave method because it goes like this, and then it goes like this to the next one, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then also when you multiply this and this, you then get plus, and then 2 times 3 is 6, and then there was x, only one variable, so you just bring it as it is here. All right, and then you take this one again, and then you multiply it with this one. Okay, remember here there's positive and here there's negative, so a positive times negative, you get a negative, and then 2 times 4, you get what? You get 8. And then this is where you end up. All right, and then now let us look at another one. Let's look at a monomial and a polynomial. Monomial times polynomial. Okay, so how to go about with this one? So for example, say you have a, and then multiply by p plus q plus r plus s. This one and this one, you will get ap. This one and this one plus aq. This one and this one, you will get plus ar. And then lastly, this one and this one, you get what? Plus as. Okay, so that is how you go about with this one. All right, now let's move further, and let us take a binomial now with another binomial. Binomial times binomial. Now, how do you go about multiplying a binomial with a binomial? Okay, how do you do that? Okay, gonna give you an example. Say you've got a plus b, and then this is a binomial because it says 1 2 times, and then you've got c plus d. This is a binomial multiplied by another binomial. So how do you go about in this particular case? It's very easy. There is a method that you use. It's called FOIL method. It's one of the method. It's not the only method. It's one of the method. There are other methods that are there that you can use. Okay. So this one goes like this. So you will use FOIL method. Okay. Now what is FOIL method? FOIL method is FOIL. Okay. F is for first. Okay. And then this is for outers. Outers. And then I is for inners. Inners. And then L is for last. Okay. Now what are the first? So here this is the first one, and then here this is the first one. So those are the first. So the first is A and C. So it's A times C, which will give you AC. All right. And then outers. Okay. When you look at this whole multiplication, what are the terms that are out? This one is out, A is out, and then D is out. So you multiply them and you say A times D. And then what do you get? You get A, D. Okay, and then inners. Now with inners, what are inners? When you look at this expression, this is in and this is in. So it's B times C, which is equal to BC, and then last. So in this binomial, this one is the last one. In this binomial, this one is the last one. So the last are B and D. So it's B times D, and then you get what? You get BD. And then you just keep on adding these things on each other, because here there's just addition sign only. So you end up getting, so basically you end up getting what? AC plus AD plus BC plus B plus BD. All right. So this is your answer. Okay, there is another method that I would like to share with you as well, because I'm a believer that you should give people different methods and then they can choose which one works for them. Okay, so for example, you've got A plus B multiplied by C plus D, the same one. Now, in this case, what you will do is you will take the first term and say A, and then you will say, take this, you'll take A and multiply it with this whole thing. So, and then say C plus D, and then you will then take B and then say plus B, and then you multiply it with C plus D again. So C plus D. And then you start. Now this is now a monomial and a binomial. So you apply the method that we used earlier. So this times this is going to be AC. This times this is going to be plus AD. And then this times this is going to be plus BD. And then this times this is going to be, sorry, it's BC, this one. And then this times this is going to be what? It's going to be BD. All right. You got the same answer as the answer that you got here. This is another method. This is another method. You choose which one works for you and then go with it. All right. Now let's take a practical example where we solve what? A monomial, a binomial, and a binomial. Let's say you've got x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 3. Okay, let's see. So the first is x times x, so you get x squared. The outers is x times 3, you get plus 3x, and then the inners is 2 times x, and then you say plus 2x, and then 2 times 3, and then you get plus 6. I'm using the FOIL method because I love it. That's one of the first methods that I learned when I started learning mathematics, so I love it. Okay, so but when you look at all of these terms, it turns out that this term and this term have the same variable and a power. So what does that mean? That means they are like terms. So when they are like terms, you must then add them together. Okay, this one doesn't have a like term, so you will drop it down like this. So it's x squared So 3x plus 2x, then that will give you 5x, and 6 doesn't have any like term, so you then say plus 6, and then you leave it like this, and that's it. Remember, you always want to leave your answer in what? In the simplest possible form. All right, guys. Yeah, time is gone, but I can see that we are all enjoying what we are doing here. Now let's do the last one. We can do more, but for the purposes of your syllabus, which is the kept syllabus of South African high schools, you only need what I've mentioned. Okay, say now you want to deal with binomial multiplied by trinomial. So the question is, how do you then go about sorting something like this? Okay, so we'll make an example and say we have A plus B multiplied by C plus D plus E. Now, how do we go about solving this one? So, guys, we take this and we multiply it with this, and then later take this and multiply it with this. Now, let's do it practically. So, we take this, multiply with this. So, we're going to say A multiplied by C plus D plus E. Okay, and then this one multiplied by this again, so you say plus B, and then you've got C plus D plus E. All right, and then obviously when you are here, you've got a monomial and a trinomial, so you repeat the same method that you have already learned earlier, which is this times this, you get a C, this times this, you get a D, this times this, you get a E, this times this, you get BC, this times this, you get BD, and then lastly this times this, you then get BE. All right, are there some like terms here? Let's see. There are no like terms, so because there are no like terms, we'll leave it like this. If there were like terms, then we would have added them together so that we can actually try and shrink the expression. But this time around, there is nothing, so we're gonna leave it like this. Okay, let's take an example and then close shops. All right, let's say you've got x minus 2 multiplied by, say, x squared plus 3x, and then plus 4. How do we go about with this kind of a thing? We know that this is going to be x squared plus 3x plus 4, and then minus 2, and then you put this thing as it is again, x squared plus 3x plus 4. Okay, and then this times this will give you nothing other than x to the power 3. This multiplied by this, you will get plus 3x squared, and then this times this will give you plus 4x, and then this times this will give you minus 2x squared, and then this times this will give you minus 6x, and then this times this one will give you minus 8. All right, does this have a like term? No, so we'll bring it down as it is, so it's going to be x to the power 3. Does this have a like term? Yes, it does. Here is the like term of this one. So obviously, because this have like term, so we're just going to add the coefficients. So it's going to be 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2 is what? Is 1. So that's going to be plus x squared. Okay, and then let's look at 4x. Does it have a like term? Yes, this is the one. Because they are like term, we're going to just add what? Coefficients. So minus 4 minus 6. 4 minus 6 is minus 2. So we're going to have minus 2x, and then we remain with this one with no like terms. So we then bring it like this, and then we close shops. So ladies and gentlemen, personalities, that is how you multiply algebraic expressions with each other in their different modes. Okay, if there's any question that you would like to ask, or something that is not clear, or a mistake that we did here where we did something wrong, you know what to do. There is a comment section below. You can then go below and be able to do what? And be able to ask or make a comment so that we can, or raise that concern if there is a concern, and then we can be able to answer it. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, personalities, thank you very much. This is Mqondisi Maqaba from Thembela Maths Club, and goodbye.